Okay, so I've put two videos on for today. One of them is the YouTube video of Mr. Quiet by Roger Hargreaves. I'd like you to watch that video first. Here's the link here again, and I've put the link on the class story. So for today, I'm going to talk you through what I would like you to do after you've watched the video. We'll start with reviewing what is a connective. We did this in term 1 and term 2. Here's a few examples. And, but, so, because, or. These are all examples of connectives, and we use these to make our sentences longer and more interesting. And I'd like you to use connectives in your sentences today. New for today is a simile. So what is a simile? A simile is where we compare a person or thing to another person, thing, or animal as a way of describing that person. So here's some examples. Mr. Lazy is as slow as a snail. Mr. Strong is as fierce as a tiger. Mr. Lazy ingests food like a pufferfish. That would mean ingest would mean consume the food and process the food. So we use these words as with an adjective as, or like when we're writing similes. See if you've heard any similes or read any similes in the story of Mr. Quiet. So our task for today is to write a character description. So by the end of this task, I would like you to have made sure you've achieved what we call the success criteria. I want you to be using capital letters, full stops and other punctuation. That might be a comma, might be an exclamation mark. I want you to use neat handwriting, and I would like you to use different sentence openers. And connectives, and I've got some more connectives for you down here. And, because, so, but, then, and although. Some of these connectives can also be used as sentence openers. So, here's an example of a character description. And I want us to see how we could make this even better. So here's the character description I've written for Mr. Quiet. Mr. Quiet is quiet. He lived in Loudland. His voice was quiet. He didn't like noise. He was little because he ate little. You may have already realised that there are some things missing from my character description, some things missing from my sentences. Have a think about the punctuation, the capital letters, whether I've used any connectives, and if you could think about what connectives to use to make these sentences better, and possibly even more vocabulary to make the sentences fuller and more descriptive. So, sorry, I'll go back to the next page. This is going to help you, guide you to write your own character description. So, it says, plan your character description. Decide what you need to include. So before you start writing your paragraph, I'd like you to make a list of vocabulary, connectives, openers, and punctuation on some paper that you are going to use to help you write your paragraph character description. Here's some examples of vocabulary that you might like to use. Quiet, noisy, loud, loudland. Think about why I've used a capital letter for that one. To do with whether it's a proper or a common noun. These words here are verbs which describe how loudly different characters in the story were talking. Bellowed, roared, thundered, boomed. As quiet as a mouse. Now there you have a simile, and that simile is used to describe just how quiet Mr. Quiet is. And we think of mice as being very tiny little quiet creatures that don't make much noise. So if we say that Mr. Quiet is as quiet as a mouse, then that means he really doesn't make much noise. He's very, very quiet. Creep into, We use that word in the Little Miss Scary story. A feeling of despair, which means when you feel so hopeless, you don't know what to do. You feel very sad, just like Mr. Quiet did in the story. Whisper is to talk very quietly, and whispered is the past tense of whisper. We've got some connectives here that you can use. Feel free to add your own as well as your own vocabulary. There's some openers here that you can use. These are just examples. Feel free to use your own. And once you've made your list of vocabulary, connectives, openers and punctuation, you can then write your character description telling what Mr. Quiet is like. What is he like? Why is he like this? What adjectives, what similes can you use to describe his character or his personality? Please write on paper using your best handwriting. Make sure you leave enough space between your writing. If the lines are very small, you might want to leave extra space between each line of writing so it's easier to read. And do go back and check your success criteria, making sure you've always read what you've written after you've finished. So making sure that you've checked all of these things before you finish your work and send me a picture of it. Okay, good luck. Enjoy.